Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving deep into the fantastic narrative arc of the indie film Wild Chemistry. We're going to explore how a protagonist's completely delusional quest for wilderness survival actually becomes this hilarious and honestly surprisingly touching path to self-discovery. We are all about the story here, so we'll be looking closely at how this deeply flawed main character drives a really compelling narrative about authenticity.
Okay, let's quickly map Jason's story onto a sort of comedic subversion of an epic quest. We've got 5 chapters: The Call to Nature, Training with a Fraud, The Pretend Odyssey, 8 Days into the Wild, and finally, Embracing the Failure.
Chapter 1, The Call to Nature, or as we'll see, Where the Delusion Begins.
So Jason crafts this grand plan to survive in the wilderness for a year and write a profound book about it, right? But his motivation isn't exactly pure. Just look at the rapid-fire domino effect of his life falling apart. I mean, in hour 1, he's pitching this grand outdoor odyssey to a publisher. By hour 2, his girlfriend Carol kicks him out, explicitly calling out his toxic pattern of adopting these hyper-masculine hobbies, like MMA and classic car restoration, only to quit them immediately. By day 2, he gets fired from his job for having terrible people skills, and by day 3, he's officially crashing on his buddy Blake's deflated air mattress. So clearly, he is running away from a massive quarter-life crisis, not answering some profound call to nature. To cover up this crumbling reality, Jason absolutely loves to mask his utter incompetence with these lofty, philosophical declarations about his upcoming odyssey. He'll openly brag about fighting off a black bear in 40 below weather by, hitting it with his rifle butt, and then seamlessly transition into quoting Immanuel Kant just to sound enlightened. It is a textbook defense mechanism.
But then we get this amazing, grounding reality check. Blake challenges him to just get up off the air mattress in under 3 seconds. And Jason struggles. He is literally heaving and panting, just trying to stand up in a modern apartment. The comedic contrast here is brilliant. You have this arrogant intellectualism on one side and utter physical ineptitude on the other. The guy is nowhere near ready to survive in the woods.
Let's move right along into Chapter 2, Training with a Fraud, The Initiation.
Desperate for a mentor to help him prep for the harsh, unforgiving wilderness, Jason enlists a guy named Gerard. Now, Jason genuinely believes Gerard is a hardened Navy SEAL, but Gerard subjects him to these completely absurd, useless training exercises. To prep for sub-zero temperatures, he makes Jason stand outside in mild, 52-degree Los Angeles weather until he vomits. When a fire won't start, Gerard claims the kindling isn't weak, Jason's spirit is weak. Oh, and the absolute pinnacle of this training? Smoking DMT, where Jason hallucinates gnomes that essentially tell him to double down on his terrible idea.
But here's the kicker. Gerard is a complete fraud. He washed out of the Navy in exactly 2 weeks because of adult-onset asthma. Why does this matter for the story? Well, it shows that Jason is so blinded by his desperate need for a hyper-masculine guide that he blindly follows a guy whose advice ultimately leads to Gerard literally freezing to death in the mild Southern California winter. It's incredibly dark, yeah, but it perfectly underscores Jason's total lack of judgment.
All right, Chapter 3, The Pretend Odyssey, Mirrors and Echoes. As departure day looms closer, Jason's daily interactions act as mirrors reflecting his fake persona right back at him. While trying to impress people, especially this quirky, unemployed woman named Mona, he constantly leans on pseudo-intellectualism. He confidently attributes a quote to John Locke, gets corrected that it's actually Nietzsche, and then aggressively defends his mistake by citing his philosophy degree from Penn, which, oops, actually turns out to be Penn State. He is desperately clinging to this fake ideal.
And again, the story just hits us with another immediate dose of reality. The same guy quoting philosophers to impress people has to literally interrupt a family at a public park to ask a ranger if a random bush has edible berries. The ranger actually has to scream at him not to eat plants meant for family photos. Later, when Gerard brings him a live rabbit to practice catching for food, Jason completely freezes up. He can't do it. He's just playing a character, and pretty much everyone but him realizes it.
Moving on to Chapter 4, 8 Days into the Wild, The Reality Check.
Completely ignoring fire restriction warnings from a store clerk, Jason finally heads north to the Sierras for his epic, isolated 1-year survival challenge. But man, the narrative quickly strips away that romanticized vision. His grand quest is instantly replaced with intense, mind-numbing boredom. He basically just walks around and reads. But then, the environment turns on him. Freezing rain starts pouring constantly. He contracts severe diarrhea. And for the ultimate punchline, vultures slowly begin surrounding his camp. First one, then two, then five. Nature isn't majestic here, you guys. It is literally just waiting for him to die.
8. That's the number. 8 total anticlimactic days is all he actually lasted in the woods before completely giving up and going home. Not a year, not a month, 8 days. The facade is entirely shattered.
Which brings us to Chapter 5, Embracing the Failure, the Elixir.
Coming home in absolute defeat, Jason is forced to confront the real reason he went on this trip, the crushing weight of his late father's mythical legacy. When he confesses his miserable failure to his mother, she brilliantly shatters his lifelong illusion. Jason thought his dad was this stoic, self-reliant mountain man, but his mom grounds the reality. His dad would just drive out to a public campground, meet his buddies, drink beer, and shoot guns. The man's man Jason was trying to emulate his whole life? Just a regular guy on a weekend vacation.
This is easily one of the most powerful story beats. His mother reframes his anticlimax not as a defeat, but as a completely necessary failure. She tells him, look, normally you play it safe. You quit your hobbies after a week before you have to learn anything hard about yourself. But this time, he put all his chips on the table. Failing out there was literally the only way to break his toxic pattern and finally see reality.
So armed with this elixir of truth, Jason storms right into Mona's corporate office to publicly shed his hypermasculine facade once and for all. He confesses his incredibly mundane, authentic self. He likes being indoors, he enjoys documentaries, he likes smoking pot, and he really likes her. He finally stops pretending.
And to completely seal the deal, he correctly uses the word datum, the singular of data, which was a very specific quirk Mona brought up earlier in the film. It's such a great narrative detail because it proves he's finally started paying attention to who he actually is and paying attention to the people he cares about rather than obsessing over some fake, untouchable ideal.
At the very end of the film, we get this hilarious bookend. Jason is back in a sporting goods store, looking at Swiss Army knives. And he actually exaggerates his 8-day trip to the cashier, implying he lived in the wild for 6 months, just to sell the guy on buying a knife. It leaves us wondering, Jason didn't conquer the woods, but he did conquer his delusions. So what does this all mean for us? Does true self-discovery require succeeding at our grandest ambitions, or simply failing hard enough to finally see who we really are? Sometimes failing the journey spectacularly is the exact thing you need to actually complete it. Thanks for joining me on this